frame in my living room. And I always knew it was from Springwater, but I never could find it. Well, when I was going through Joyce's cards, here was the house, and it was the Armstrong house on School Street, and now it's where the counties live, but this house burned down. Now, why was a cupola on top of the house?
Watch for the Indians.
Well, not quite.
It's a widow.
No, widows walk where if you watched out at sea and there's no ocean near here to watch to see if your ship's coming in. Besides, I'm going to be at the airport when my ship comes in. Nobody knows why we get cupolas? Let me sort of coach you. In the summertime, you open the windows up top. Okay, and then you open the windows and the doors down here. And have you ever heard of the chimney effect? Where it goes in one end and out the top? Well, if you had the cupola, you opened up down here, and at night you open the windows up and the hot air would go out the top.
And the beds would come in.
Well, you had screens, hopefully. This was an early form of air conditioning. Now, Mr. Ingram, whoops. Hey, that one got moved too, Paul. How did that happen? Okay, here we're at our bird's eye views. Mr. Ingram, I think, took his camera up on the hill every day of his life and took a picture. And he took them a little bit different spaces. And between Joyce and myself, we must have at least 100 of them. And if we added Doug's in, probably 150. So what we did, we just tried to put the ones in that showed something, and the pea vinery was up on Kellogg Road. And there again, most small towns had canning factories or pea vineries. This is a much more modern one. The Cold Grove gas station, the May gas station, the Shannon block is gone. Town Hall, Kellogg Road. That's the most modern one we have. Now, out behind the school was a driving track, and you drove your horse around the track. And there was a very, very big driving track in Wayland, too, where the town barns are. The Patchins had a driving track there, and in Patchinsville they had a covered driving track for the winter. And so driving your horse way back then was a sport. You certainly couldn't watch baseball or football on TV or listen to it on the radio. And you certainly weren't going to go any place where they were playing, so this was your local entertainment. And this is good because it shows the cemetery. The school, the Advent Church. Now, we talked about horse sheds, and here's the Methodist Church on Main Street, and look at, there was a big horse shed out there. Because you didn't go to church for just 45 minutes or an hour then. When you went, you were there for a good portion of the day. You had to make your horse comfortable while you weren't being so comfortable. Okay, this was the upper end of Depot Road. Seen looking over Evergreen Cemetery. And this is the depot. This is probably from the 1940s. Now look at people who are all lined up to get their picture taken. And here's the driving track. I like the ones that are a little bit closer because you can see more if you really look at them. And if you're trying to figure out the date of a picture, you can look at these ones that are closer up and figure out where things were. The town hall. Now, if you go up across from Ellen Graham's house on Harper Ferry Road, there's a woods up there. And it's significant because they had the camp meeting ground there, which was a summer revival type thing. You'd come and you'd stay in your tent for several days, and they had guest speakers, and every day there would be a different speaker in the afternoon and one in the evening. So you would come, it was sort of like a vacation. But remember, you couldn't turn on the TV and see the Crystal Chapel or whatever, or you couldn't see the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, so you had to go and make your own religious versions of things. And see how many people they had there? Now Johnson took a series of pictures of this event. I think there were 8 of them. I maybe have about 5. And here's the minister, and he's baptizing the gal. They were baptized by immersion. None of this sprinkle a little bit of water on your forehead, but hop right in the pond. And can you imagine how your clothes looked? You didn't have washers and dryers, and you didn't have dry cleaners. And I'll bet the preacher didn't do that more than once a year because it would ruin his clothes. And I'm sure it ruined the lady's dress, too. Another thing that was a religious happening back then were flower carnivals. I'm not sure if this is in the church or in the town hall. I think probably the town hall. And back then, you didn't go to the Hemlock Fair or the Caledonia Fair or the State Fair like we do now because you didn't have a car. And it took a long time to go if you had your horse, and if you took your horse and went to the fair, it would take you a long time, and then there would have to be somebody home to milk the cows. So they made their own local entertainment, and each summer they had a flower carnival, and they gave cash prizes, and $5 was the first prize in several categories. Now Joyce has the brochure or the booklet from 1907, and I have one from when it was in 1943. We do not know if they were held in between there or not. But look at the amount of flowers that are there. Yeah, wow. Can you imagine? This was 100 years ago. Most of these pictures, by the way, the old ones were taken about 1908. Now, from that booklet of hers, I pulled out some of the ads and scanned them individually. And see, there again, we don't know Johnson's first name. He was known as Johnson, the photographer. Dr. Knickerbocker on East Avenue, Brewers, Springwater Valley Mill, Walter Baird, which would be Baird's grandfather. He had the bus line, and he was a funeral director. We don't know what building that he was in. This guy was, we saw his house on Mill Street, and Niles had the paper in Wayland and the paper in Springwater. Now up on Tabor's Corners Road near the old Pink Barn, Higgins, this was the old Higgins homestead, and out behind there was Camp Wilderness, which was a camp for boys. We can figure we have Ken Higgins and Lee Spears and Ada Spears, and we have Ada Spears and Irva Hills. Now, I would think some of you would know some of those campers. You know, you're the quietest bunch of people I've ever given a show to. It's amazing. See, it was quite a thing. It had an in-ground pool. This was the 1930s.
Oh.
We still do have a campground in operation on Marvin Hill. The E.E. Wilmette home on North Main Street. The porch has been closed in. They had a real estate office there. We're just going to try to intersperse some people with some homes. What a good-looking couple. and he had a Chevy out compressor. The Atwood home on Reynolds Gull Road, owned by Steve and Susie Rober Homes now. The Haywood home. Andrew and Cora Lynn's home on Bald Hill, and Havilah lived there with the Lynn family after his mom passed away. Here's where it was under construction, and here was Cora holding the child, and here's how the house looked when it was completed. It hadn't been completed too long because you can see ladders and everything around it. Now, Pop Wilson, I guess, I did not ever know him, but I guess he was one of the more famous people in Springwater. He went to Philadelphia and studied music, and I believe he either played or sang with the Philadelphia Symphony or something like that. Boston? Yeah.
I think I'd be really information on that. Ty Wilson was his father. He had his small country club up where Ron Smith is now.
Okay.
And in order to give his two sons musical education, they moved to Boston, where the conservatory was there. Frank Wilson became a very proficient musician and played with the
Boston Philharmonic? Sousa.
Yeah, John Philip Sousa. And Sousa went on a big boat tour of Europe. He wanted Frank to go with him, but Frank's mama didn't want him to go across the sea because it might not get back to him. So he stayed here, and Susan gave him a letter of introduction to the director of the Boston Pops. And that's where he spent most of his life playing.
Okay. All right. Well, I knew he was a musician. I said I knew he was a musician. I just had him in the wrong state and the wrong city. And he had a home on North Main Street, which was a gas station, and we don't have a picture of the gas station either. Down near Joyce O'Neill's house. Now, this house, I added it. This is probably one of the two pictures I have in here that I don't know where they were. Leona and Bert lived there. There were no screens on the window, and look at the dog in the wagon posing for his picture. Now, does anybody know who Leona and Bert could have been?
You know the year?
About 1907 or 1908. George Barron and with his horse. Louita Higgins' birthday party. Look at how happy she looks to be there. Here's the birthday girl. But notice the big hair bows they had.
Oh my.
She cute? Well, see, then you had to be very, very still because the photography was not as quick as it is now. So you had to remain very, very still while your picture was being taken. And this is the Wilmette home at the foot of Wheaton Hill, and for some reason or other, we've got all kinds of pictures of this, and it's changed. You can see this has been added on. Look at how muddy the road was. And boy, you complain, you go whipping up 390 and you complain about how bad the roads are. After you look at this, I don't think you're going to complain so much. Now the fly knots on the horses. Everybody I've showed that picture to said, what? I didn't know those were fly nets. And as the horses walked, the strings on the nets wiggled and it kept the flies away. Now this is the other one that we don't know where it is. But look at that garage or that horse barn with living quarters maybe upstairs. Does anybody know where that is? It's postmarked Springwater in 1911, and it was sent to a Mrs. Frank Spencer, and it was signed from Tammy. And I just think it's wonderful. I think it's in the village somewhere because you can see the houses out there in the mailbox.
Is it in Miller's?
No. No, it doesn't add up. And this poor house has been neglected. The porch has fallen right in. This goes back to what I said. If you can't fix it, maybe let somebody else have it to tend. Sheep farmers don't know who they are. And she apparently has a baby lamb in her arms. Maybe two of them. The Kellogg Roadhouse does not look much different now than it did then. This needs to be, those aren't quite right, but they're not bad. And these are some of the owners. Floyd with his bike. Paul thinks that's the coolest picture in the whole slideshow. He loves it. Motorbike. I added this in because I think they've done such a lovely job with it. It looks so nice. There was an American eagle shot by Walter Stewart in 1910 at Forest Farm. I do not know where Forest Farm was. Joyce? Up in Candidice Road? Okay. Now here's a picture of Floyd the photographer. Yeah, look at that hat. Boy, try to keep that one balanced on your head. You better hope a windstorm didn't come along. That's why they had big long hat pins back then. Don't know where this house is, but I thought it was interesting because it's got the cobblestone basement. And apparently they lived, or part of the, probably the summer kitchen maybe was in the basement. Why did they have separate summer kitchens way back then?
Cooler.
Okay, hey, you got one right. We'll keep score here. Now this is Tip Bumstead, and the message on the back of the car says, if that pesky black-eyed witch hadn't raised the devil, I would have been running this car yet. We think maybe she might still be driving if somebody hadn't changed her mind. And I don't know, this maybe's Tip's grandmother and her mother and father, and the interesting thing was, Tip's grandson over in Honeywell fixed my van for me about a year ago. This was taken out of a newspaper. You can see the funny little things when you try to scan something out of a newspaper. The Straight family with their Christmas tree. Christmas trees were much simpler than they are now. This one obviously hadn't been decorated yet. But you notice they didn't have many branches. Gary and Lorna and Stubby. Pretty good sized deer. And then we have Jeff and Jan with the Lopez one. And I had Jan in school many, many years ago. Now somebody's got to know who these kids are. Don't all talk at once. Gee, Joyce, we did not even get any help here. We thought everybody would know who they were. Okay, we had our share of floods and ice storms and windstorm. Not much left of the barn. The blacksmith shop on Mill Street. Devil, is that your house? It's not. And Roby Stewart's house burning down, and Grace lives there now in a new home. Look at the mess in your... That's what?
That is May Higgins' house, but that's Ken Ingram standing there.
Ken Ingram in front of May Higgins' house. You remind me and I'll change that. But look at the mess in your front yard. Imagine getting up and seeing that. I can remember when I was a little kid coming down to Springwater, and the water on the east side of the road, the water was going in the back doors and right out the front.
The Higgins had a beautiful cabin up big area of gladiolus. And they were all washed up.
40 years later, there it comes again.
Yeah.
And in 92, here it comes again. And this is fairly recent. Now here's stuff that didn't quite fit in anywhere else. On North Main Street, up above the Ingram and Hyde homes on the east side of the street, they dammed up, put this dam in for a private water supply for 9 homes on North Main Street, and it was all made with used pipe. And look at the workers all lining up to get this picture taken.
Electricity for the door.
Okay, that's nice to know. So the people on the north end were ahead of the curve because they had public water before the town did. Now, here's one of the other printed cards, and it's a joke card. And you could find this same card from almost any town in the United States. But I thought it was interesting that Mill Pond had a card printed. I mean, it wasn't of Mill Pond, but it says Mill Pond on it. Now we have a picture of the Springwater Depot. And this one is not particularly sharp because it was taken off the internet, right, Doug?
No, it was out of a book.
Oh, out of a book, okay. I have one that was taken off the internet. And this is what it looks like now, where the depot was. Up on the corner of Depot and Harper's Ferry. They had crossing guards. Don't know who he was. And it says 5 by 7 and 8.5, and I don't know. It almost looks like a section of radiator. I'm not sure what that is. The caption on the back of this says 13 ton of coal, Frank Stewart. And at first we thought it was wood, but then when we closed in on it, it is coal. But look at that nice old steam engine. And we know that Byron Sloat was the carriage painter, but we do not know where he lived. Can anybody help us? He was from Springwater. And so instead of taking your car to get it repainted, you took your carriage to get it repainted.
Right down next to the church.
Down next to the church?
Yes.
The
Oh, that was the building up there.
behind up near the Methodist church?
Yes.
Thank you, Grace. See, this is why we like Grace, because she answers all of our questions. Now, I put out a plea to Harry because I knew he lived in Webster's Crossing. I said, what do you have? And a few days ago, in came this really nice bunch of pictures, and they were taken by Wilson McGinn, and the captions were already on the pictures. So I just kind of put them in so you could see how the radar tower looked 40 years ago.
I was there 42 years.
Yeah, because you're an old timer just like me.
Not renowned for my intelligence.
Hey, the paycheck was steady.
Ah, sure.
Now you notice there weren't many trees there. And I love this one inside the dome. I think that's cool. And hey, our boy didn't have a ponytail. A couple years ago, Sally Fox and Chelsea Warren did an art installation at the south end of Hemlock Lake. And we went down and spent an afternoon down there, and I don't know if they were there, but they stretched this long, long piece of fabric for on and on and on and on through the field down there, through this path. And they said Queen Anne's lace and bluebirds, and we got the Queen Anne's lace and stars and fireflies dance, and it was really a cool event. It really was. We love parades. Most of these were taken from little teeny tiny pictures, so aren't too great. Sherry Kelly was one of my third graders. And this was 1967. And the first ambulance, it had been a hearse. And then here's May's lunch counter, light lunches in the back. That's Dave Harder with the Dansville truck. 1970, it looks like Dana Colgrove. 1975. 1983. And we don't know, and it took me a while. This is a fish tank, and somebody here is fishing. At first I thought it was raining and they had their plastic out, but I thought, no. Look at it. Now here we are in Webster Crossing. All my life I've said Webster's Crossing, and I know I'm wrong. And here's a 1902 map. It was Webster's Crossing then.
The sign on one end says Webster's Crossing, and on the other end it says Webster Crossing.
Well, we'll see. We'll get it exactly right. Now, Joyce and I went up to Irwin Cemetery, and this is absolutely the most remarkable little cemetery forever and ever. It still has the iron fence, and it says Irwin Cemetery right there. And let me show you some things that are unusual about it and some things that are not quite so. I mean, this is how it was 100 years ago. Now, what's different here? No, come on, look at it.
That monument's gone.
Okay, you see this, and this, and this, and this, and then this, and this. What's different? No, they took this one down and put up a more modern one. Don't know if a tree fell on it or what happened, but the May Monument, it was May Monument then and May Monument now, but it's a new one. One thing that perplexed me about the cemetery in Dansville, we spent a lot of time hiking up at the cemetery there, and the flags are all on the soldiers' graves year-round, and I came up here and I did not find one flag. Do they not flag them, or do they take them off, or what's the scoop? They take them off?
Demolished a lot of them a few years ago, so we decided to take them off.
So how long do they keep them up for?
Now just for the holiday.
Just like for a weekend? Okay. Now, Marion Walker, here is your zinc monument. Now, let me tell you about these. I looked at these and I thought, boy, that's pretty special. That is really, really nice. So I went home and I got on the internet, and Mount Hope Cemetery in Rochester, you know how huge that is? They said that they were very special up there because they had 12 zinc monuments. Well, of course, I had to get right back in the car and go right back up there. And we have 10 different families that have zinc monuments. Now, they were only made from 1874 to 1914 by the Monumental Bronze Company. And you see how these are sort of, the name tags are bolted on? If you got another spouse, unbolt her, throw it out, and put the new one in. If somebody can look at that technology today, they can make a lot of money. And this guy was a Civil War vet because we see the GAR symbol there. Now this one is extremely unusual because there is a lifelike person up at the top of it. And usually they had a finial or some other inanimate object up on the top of them. But this one had the lady on top. And then when we came across this, we were really excited because here is a cast iron water fountain with a pipe going right up to the bird's mouth. Right over in here is the water faucet, and this is open in the back, and you can see down there, there's a dry well down there, and all the piping is there. And if anybody would like a wonderful project, it would be just super to have this one operational again. because there are not, I don't believe there's more than 1 or 2 operational water fountains in western New York. So you could just have a special thing if you get that restored.
But where is it?
It's up on Irwin Cemetery and Kearney Hollow Road. Coming into Webster Crossing, we have Shorty Mae's house that Wendy Maston and her husband have, and Wendy was one of my students back a few years back. Now here we have another cupola, and we're coming into town where the stores are. The cupola is now no longer there. And on the left is the Webster store, and then the Johnson store, and look at the roads. Not good. And here's how we look 100 years later. And here's a better look at the store. We don't really have a good picture of the store, of the Webster store, an early one. But we've got pictures of the Johnson store. And we've got more of the Johnson store. And more of the Johnson store. And the post office was in there then. Back then, yes, even now, not all of the post offices were owned by the postal department. And this was good business for the store owner to have a post office in his store, because when you came in to get your mail or to buy some stamps, you'd probably buy something in the store. So it was good business for the store owner and the post office because they didn't have to maintain the building. What a difference in 100 years. Now here again we've got another one of these basements that comes out underneath the porch. The milk and cheese plant, and look at what a big operation it was. And it was right on the railroad tracks, so the cars could pull right over and they could load the milk cans on. This was probably in the 40s, I'm guessing, and that by then they had a motorized milk route where they would come and pick up your milk. This house was just south of the Weed Home, and it's been torn down. Harry Reynolds lived here at this time, and now Brian and Sandy West live there, and this is how it looked early on. And I don't know, was it a block home or did it have that metal siding in it?
When I had it, it had the slate kind of siding on it, but I don't know.
So you don't know
when
what
they
was...
took that off.
Okay. Now looking across from Harry's, he was taking a picture of this, but he got a picture of the potato warehouse. And we go 1, 2, 3, Gladys's home, the last post office location. Mr. Phelps picked up and delivered the mail between post offices, and he almost looks like he's got an old ice cream truck there. Now, it was Webster's Crossing in 1870. It changed to Webster Crossing in 1894, and in 1998, it has a Springwater address. The old blacksmith shop. And this is nice because you can see a picture of the door. It's going to be like that in a few days. This was the blacksmith shop. And when we were taking pictures up there the other day, we liked to get the detail of the windows and over the door. There again, that's a beautiful building. Now, churches and schools were the backbone of small towns because it took you forever and a day to go somewhere with your horse. No radio, no television, and they didn't even have a newspaper there.
Can we back up there?
Sure,
Back to the barn.
sure.
That has the date when it was built. It's the only barn in Genesee
Can you go back, Pop?
that has the actual date on it.
You want to go back?
Yeah. It has the date on it, Aaron?
The date's
the
on
barn.
the front of the barn.
On the front of the barn up here.
Yeah, 18 something.
right there, which we can't see.
Maybe one more.
It hasn't changed much. They've kept it in good repair, and they've kept the architectural details pretty much intact. They obviously were spraying it. Don't know who this cute little girl was, but she was getting ready for the flower carnival, and they had one there too. So this was kind of an end of summer celebration for the local people. And look at the amount of flowers they had there, and I believe this is inside the church. And if you look at this tin siding, we're going to see it a little bit later. Here it is. And these people are named. This is 1909. See the siding, or the wall covering? I'm sure you recognize some of these people. You recognize Mark May. He was one of my little third graders. And here's Carol Reynolds. And Barb Jerome. And if I look long enough, I recognize a lot more kids there.
Shane Martin. So came out and that's a little more.
This is the Lopez girl. And now we're at 1986. Cute little kids. See, there you are, ladies. Now we're up to the depot. It was right smack dab on Main Street, which was good, and it was bad. It was good because you could get to it in a hurry, and it was bad because of the soot and the smoke. Now, railroads did not own their depots in the early years. They were leased from people like you and me who had an empty building right where they needed it. And you can see this was a house, obviously. And the funny thing is, Webster's Crossing is such a little teeny tiny town. I have 5 different real photo postcards of it, but I have none from Dansville. Now you figure that one out. And it was called Webster's then. And one of the pictures I have was printed backwards, so I had to flip it around. And here's how it looks now. Bob Strasberg owns it.
No, wrong side of the street.
Pardon me?
There's nothing on that corner where the depot is.
No, it's still right there.
Yeah, now.
I was up there a week ago. That's when we took the picture. Now, I think this was White Brothers Grist Mill. Is that right? Okay, in the school. There's the home where the mill was, and the school's still there.
Yeah.
2 doors, one for the boys, one for the girls. Now, you see, they didn't have Webster spelled quite right. And the reason you see a lot of misspellings on these old pictures was the photographer had to write backwards on the back side of the negative. So they did well to get it as good as they did.
Oh, my.
Isn't that cute? And we hope you'll consider joining the Historical Society. We hope you'll really take to heart that you really should have your own building. And I think somebody is here tonight that will sell you a membership if you'd like to join. And I want to thank these people for helping. Joyce, Fran and Dana, Harry and Carol, Grace, Gladys, Doug and Paul. Without you, I never could have done this. And we hope you enjoyed it.